Hello and good day everyone. So today I've got a video for you which is pretty much a replay of me playing the Missouri, although this video I will focus talking a bit about battleship tactics, and I'm going to explain a bit what the tactics are that I'm using, what I'm doing, and well, how I suppose how people can apply these tactics in their own battles. So to begin with, I am starting by pushing with my Missouri towards A. This is because there are two battleships located at Charlie and one at Bravo. Well, actually two, which included me. But as we can see on the minimap, the two battleships near Charlie decided to head towards Bravo and reinforce that point. So I decided that it's better to go to Alpha, so that there are two battleships there. Also, the shift to press shift to enter the binocular view is a replay bug. I recorded this as a replay, not really as a separate thing. Anyway, that was a pretty good salvo, and yeah, this is one of the things I tend to attempt to do when I'm playing as a battleship, and that is try to find a target that I can strike as hard as possible. That cruiser was just taken out of the battle pretty much straight away, and there got another 20k damage on that Amagi. Yeah, that's a pretty good amount of damage. Now, what you'll see me doing here is I won't entirely push into the point. This is due to something I will attempt to explain a bit later. Anyway, I try to take a shot at the destroyer because everyone knows that firing at destroyers is always, the best thing to do. You want the destroyers dead. They are stealthy, they can, capture the bases without being seen, and they have the really annoying torpedoes, which are especially painful for you as a destroyer player, or I mean as a battleship player, because the battleships have a harder time avoiding the torpedoes than, well, pretty much any other ship out there except for the aircraft carrier, which does have the speed but not the turn rate, of course. I believe most battleships turn faster, if not every battleship, than the aircraft carrier. So what I'm doing is I'm not pushing into the cap. This is due to various reasons. I mean, obviously they have a way larger fleet there, as well as that when I'm in the cap zone, and I will explain this later in chat towards my team as well, if I would be in the cap zone in Alpha, they can keep firing at me and just, keep resetting the cap. Not to forget that technically seen, being a bit further backwards, so, being at a longer distance is more the optimal engagement distance of the Missouri against enemy battleships. This is mainly due to her slightly weaker armor. So what you'll see me doing here is, again, try to maximize that damage output. I know that, the enemy Missouri is at low health and he is healing, but I know that I can just deal that much more damage against the Amagi. I think it would have been a waste of my salvo if I would have fired at the Missouri, especially since, there's still an Atlanta there and another cruiser, which I kind of forgot which it actually was, that could fire at the Missouri, even though it just went undetected. The Missouri, that Missouri specifically, took so much damage, it is going to have a really difficult time to repair itself. Yeah, so currently, I decide to go a bit forward again, just to, get the enemies to fire at someone again. I mean, I'm undetected, they are undetected. The other Iowa is still going backwards, which is not a bad thing. I mean, he is on extremely low health, so he should try to disengage and get that repair off. You know, and that's another thing with the engagement ranges as well. If you're engaging at a range where you can disengage in a matter of seconds, then you're pretty much good. You know, especially if you use a concealment build. If you don't use a concealment build, this is a lot more difficult because that range that you can disengage at is a lot longer. But in a ship like the Missouri, Iowa, or one of the British battleships, you pretty much want to engage at the ranges you can disengage at a bit more easily, because you're going to have weaker armor than some of the other ships, so you're going to have to use that repair more often. And in order to, you know, use the repair effectively, being at a range where you can decide to disengage and pull back and use that repair, you know, you're basically good. You know, you can more effectively tank damage that way. Unlike what a lot of people say that think that every battleship should basically be, you know, brawling, which really doesn't work. Currently, by the way, the other cruiser is asking me to push around, but I am more comfortable around here. I mean, if you look at the minimap, you can see the last spotted enemy ship locations in H3 and 4, and it is quite clear that the enemy is not really attempting to push, you know, around the island, which wouldn't have been a very smart idea in the first place. I mean, if they would have done that from the positioning of our team, they would have basically gotten around the island, exposed their broadsides, and yeah, get hit by 3 battleships. So yeah, currently you can just see how easy the Atlanta can just cap the base. The Nagato actually went inside, although at this point it doesn't really matter anymore because of how close we are actually to capping the enemy base. And it's also a case of, you know, if I would have been in the base, the Nagato would have been in the base, and the Iowa, they could have just shot us one by one every salvo, and we would never have been able to capture the base. So there is the King George V. Of course, it's the King George is really hard to citadel, and I'm going to ask him to you know, be a priority target simply because of how well it can repair itself. We don't really want it to get away, especially since it's technically seen on quite low health right now. A thing about the British battleships is really just fire AP at it. It has the 32 or, you know, the less armor plating literally everywhere. So, you know, you're going to penetrate it a lot easier. There is the Confederate, and as you can notice, by the way, I've dealt 143k damage, and we're about, you know, halfway through the match. And I still haven't had any kills, but I don't mind really. I mean, getting the kills is not as important for me. I mean, look at this, right? I mean, of course I've got nothing else to fire at than King George. But if there was a full broadside, you know, high health battleship, why would I not have fired my main guns at it? You know, because the cruisers can easily finish off the King George, just like, you know, now. I could have, you know, pointed my bow towards it and just fire my my 2 guns on the bow of the ship, but instead I'm deciding to go push towards Bravo, you know, follow the Iowa and attempt to push Bravo. That salvo was a bit less than I expected, to be honest. I mean, I could have finished off the Amagi there, but yeah. And as you can see, you know, because the Iowa managed to disengage and stay spotted for a while, he managed to repair back to, you know, a decent amount of health. something that I personally haven't had to worry about, simply because I did not get fired at a lot. Which is the thing as well, by the way. I've had, you know, battles where people were complaining about my health, and I just didn't get fired at. But that's something completely different. And yeah, this is generally the tactic I prefer to use on this map. If you're on Alpha, or you can take Alpha or push Alpha, it's usually the best thing to push through Alpha into Bravo. And technically seen, you know, the Nagato and the other battleship and that one cruiser chasing the Atago down south. I mean, they're not really doing much, you know. Of course, the enemy doesn't have a lot of ships left, but, you know, if they still had a decent force left, you really want those two battleships and the cruiser to, you know, push into the objectives. So I noticed the Pensacola is there. I tried to shoot at it, but I only overpen it. And then I see, or I decide to head towards the Iowa. Now, engaging the Iowa here is presenting a bit of a bit more of a tactical play, because he is threatening to kill the Fiji, even if he's firing high explosive for some reason, although I think he just had it loaded, because in his next salvo he will be firing armor piercing, if I recall correctly. Anyway, you will pretty much see what's happening. I am sailing very, very broadside to him, I know this. I mean, usually I already prefer using my rear gun, but I am sailing this much broadside, or I'm showing this much broadside, simply in order to get the Iowa to fire at me and not at the cruiser. And he does deal a lot of damage to me. But this is almost the end of the match. I know that there is not really going to be much that the enemy can do to actually kill me, and I explained this in chat as well. But by firing at me, he does not fire at the Atlanta that's behind me, or at the Fiji, which he was actually firing at. And yeah, I mean, I can take the damage. And funnily enough, I think the Iowa actually misplayed here, because if he had continued firing at the Atlanta, I could have killed the Atlanta, stayed bowing towards me, and probably ram me, as happened to me in a different match where I did something similar. And as you can see, in this case I'm in a Nashitaka, which is I think a quite fun ship to play. So I knew there was a Belfast in smoke there, and what you can see me doing is I aim my rear guns at the Belfast to attempt to kill it, and I do get a Citadel hit on it. So I wiggled my ship to get those rear guns on. Now I'm just going to point my bow at the Nagato. I mean, I could continue shooting at the Nagato, but instead what I'm doing is shooting my two guns near the bow on the Belfast again. Continue to maneuver in such a way that I get, you know, the other guns off again. You know, spread out the shots a bit. There goes the Belfast, and well, yeah, here I'm just going to go for the ram on the Nagato. I mean, there it goes. I took out two ships before I died. I typed Bonsai in chat, you know, just for the sake of it. And yeah, I mean, I just think that in this case, the enemy Iowa could have done the same or a similar thing. But that's, you know, just my opinion. So by now there's only really the Ranger left, and the Atago, which went all the way south. So I'm just going to sail into Charlie simply because I can get the cap. I mean, the cap will give me additional points, and, you know, continue firing at the Ranger. But yeah, this pretty much, you know, was the match. As you know, have noticed, I don't stick to just one point. I don't chase down one ship. I think that's really the way that you should be playing. You know, try to get control over a certain or 2 points. The reason why I want Alpha as well is because Bravo and Alpha are 2 points that can easily support each other more easily than Bravo and Charlie, in my opinion. So with the enemy aircraft carrier gun, I fire at the Attigo. I won't actually hit him. I don't think my damage will have been any higher than this in this match. So I'm just going to round up the video here. If you have any questions, or want me to do any more tactical videos, or have any advice, then please do so in the comments. Do post it in the comments. If you want to see more of this, please leave a like and subscribe and activate the notifications so that you will be notified when I upload a new video, and that I'll know that you want to see more videos. Anyway, I hope you'll have a good one, a good day, good night, good evening, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.